Hello, friends. Lots to cover today. Lots to cover. Hi, friends. Hello, folks. How are you? How is everybody doing? Tell me as per usual in an emoji style so I can get a good picture of how everyone is doing today. I am annoyed, but that's not a shock. Hello in Maryland. I hope that spring is sprung there. Hello from Boston. Hi, Diane. Hi, little one. Hi, folks. So good to see all of you. Oh, you're waiting for a car inspection. I'm happy to help you pass the time. So I started off with this week. You know, I'm always asked on like a Monday what I want to talk about on a Wednesday. And the way that the world rocks, it's kind of fucking hard to think ahead. And so in, the promos for the show, I was like, yeah, we're going to talk about the Derek Chauvin case. We're going to talk about the settlement that the Floyd family received from the city of Minneapolis. And then we'll move from there. But the reality is that then by the time that I get to fucking Wednesday, all hell has always broken loose, and things change. And so today, I'm going to start out with talking about my pure and complete and utter fucking disdain for white mainstream media. And if you listen to Woke AF, or if you're a subscriber to Woke AF Daily, my daily hour show, which you should, go to patreon.com/wokeaf and sign up for $5 a month for 5 shows a week. You hear me talk about white mainstream media. It's why I'm on an independent platform. It's why I don't, on a regular basis, fuck with mainstream media. Because I'm tired of their perpetuating of white supremacy and acts of violence. So we all have been following the news all day long with regard to the incident, the mass shooting that took place in Atlanta, Georgia. And, at this stage, what we know is that 8 people are dead, 6 of whom are Asian, 2 of whom are white. They were killed by a man by the name of, like I give a fuck about his name, but Robert Aaron Long. Robert Aaron Long is 21 years old. He is a resident of Georgia. And let me get to the point of why I can't fucking stand mainstream white media. One, they brought us Donald Trump, and I'm not going to digress and go into that, but what I will talk about is what is happening right now. If you are listening to the news right now, you are learning about Robert's mental fitness and about how he felt that day and about what led him to this act of violence. And what's funny is that this man is able to speak on his own behalf because guess what, folks? He's still alive. So fucking crazy that you can murder 8 fucking individuals and manage to be taken alive by police, brought into custody, and then able to speak on your own behalf, and then tell those that are asking you questions, that, oh, this wasn't racially motivated. I'm crazy in a different way. And then we're gonna fucking run with that, right? Oh, he's not a racist. He's just a lunatic gunman who has a sex addiction, right? We seem to consistently want to unpack the mental state and wits of armed, dangerous, fucking white men. But when it comes to, the humanity and character of innocent black or brown people, America seems to struggle. I've already seen pictures of this motherfucker's prom, his prom picture, him in a tuxedo. We've already seen that. I have already seen reports, and let me tell you this, because I swear to God, folks, I swear to fucking God, Jesus tries me a lot. You know that song that says try Jesus, but don't try me because I throw hands? That's how I fucking feel today. But here's a report that came out from Shannon Watts, who is the founder of Moms Demand Justice. It is a gun rights organization. And so she tweeted this, and I'll tell you what I tweeted in response. She said, it was according to Cherokee County Sheriff, the Cherokee County Sheriff, right, who arrested this man, who is, this man is now in the custody of this police department, says, oh, it was a really bad day for him. The man who murdered 8 people in cold blood, the sheriff has said it was a really bad day for him, and this is what he did. It was a really bad day for him? Am I supposed to empathize with this fucking murderer's bad day? Am I supposed to, what am I supposed to do with that exactly? Right? The man has had a bad day, and somehow I'm supposed to feel some type of way. You hear my alarm ringing? I'm gonna have to pause, folks. Hold one quick second. I'll be right back. I promise. But we're gonna keep talking about this murderer. Hold. Okay, I'm back. You ever realize that when white people have a bad day, other people end up dead? This is the feeling that I have. When Dylan Roof killed the 9 worshipers in South Carolina, you know, in the midst of their prayer, do you remember what the police officers did then? They took him to Burger King. Do you remember that story? He was hungry. So after murdering 9 people, in the midst of them praying, the police officers, when they put Dylan Roof in the car, asked him if he was hungry. Right? Fast forward now, and police officers are talking about the fact that a man that murdered 8 women in cold blood had a bad day. Folks, the issue isn't just in these individuals, as the white mainstream media would have us want to think, because they want us to believe that white violence is the acts of individuals that are lunatics, that are crazy. They don't want you to understand that it is an actual pattern and it is part of a larger pack. These are not individuals that are just acting on their own accord. These are wolves of white supremacy that run in a pack that then are upheld by the very police officers, departments that are supposed to be holding them accountable. But why would you hold folks accountable who you are on the side of? Why would we allow for these police officers and these law enforcement officials, who many of whom, you know, we have learned through the Southern Poverty Law Center and their research into the rise of white supremacists who have infiltrated our law enforcement? That's a thing that, you know, our federal government hasn't investigated. So we are allowing the perpetrators of white violence to then be held accountable by those that uphold white supremacy, but the only difference is they have a badge and a gun. So when we are then hearing things like, oh, from law enforcement, that this son of a bitch had a bad day, and these are the same people that then, when black and brown people are murdered, right? They want to look for the darkest photo. They want to find something that will justify their homicide. So when George Floyd had Derek Chauvin's knee on his neck for 9 minutes, we were told about what? Within hours of George Floyd being dead. It wasn't just Fox News. It was other news reports that were looking for, well, he was convicted of a crime before. He smoked marijuana before. I don't think he graduated from college. This is the shit that white mainstream media, not just conservative media, do when the victims of white violence, right, are dead. We don't look for the sweet photo of George Floyd with his daughter or his family. We don't look to humanize the people that have been the victims of white violence. No, in America, we look to humanize the perpetuators of violence. So right now, you fucking listening to the news, hearing these motherfuckers talk about, well, what led him to this? He was such a sweet boy. He was so quiet. The fuck? And so you expect us as black folks to sit here and do what exactly? Want to unpack with you? Want to go through some type of collective group therapy session after every single murder? And you know what's worse? What's worse that's happening right now, because this happened at a massage parlor in Atlanta, is that now we're starting to look into what? The backgrounds of the Asian women that were murdered and figure out whether or not they caused their own death because what? They were potentially sex workers, because that's what's floating around. It's like, oh, well, these women were trafficked and, they're potentially sex workers, which what makes them what? Ripe for a bullet from a white supremacist? Also, we're allowing him to tell us whether or not this was an act of violence that was done so because the victims were Asian. And he's saying, no, I didn't kill them because they were Asian. I killed them because I want to stop myself from my porn addiction. And then we're going to run with that, because we also allow murderers to be able to tell us their narrative, and then that's the narrative we run with in the press. What the fuck? When I say this shit out loud, doesn't it sound crazy to you? Does this shit sound normal? Like things that we should be like, oh yeah, I totally want to know about his family history and whether or not his parents gave him a cat. And because he didn't have a pet as a kid, he murdered people. And now I want to empathize with the fucking murderer because he's a white man? Folks, let me tell you something. I am running out of fucks to give. I am running out of patience with this country. I'm running out of patience with the criminal justice system that was not built to actually prosecute white people. No, it was built to keep black and brown people in prison. You see, slavery ended and they needed another mechanism with which to enslave us. So you over-police, right? You over-incarcerate, you create this picture, this stereotype of these violent animals that need to be imprisoned, that need to be beaten down, right? And then you run with that. So you can justify our deaths. And you sit here and we're looking at the backgrounds of the women that were murdered as opposed to arresting this motherfucker and shoving him under a jail. Why would we be looking for the backgrounds of the people that were murdered? To do what exactly? To justify their death. This is what makes me sick. This is honestly what makes me sick day in and day out. So I want to bring up another case, and I want to thank Gina for you bringing this to my attention, because without you bringing it to my attention, I wouldn't have known. So there's a man in Texas, I believe, who police were called to investigate a mental health breakdown that was happening in public. This gentleman, who has a history of schizophrenia, black man, was arrested. Again, we are utilizing police to do mental health checks, which they are not equipped to do. And frankly, I don't know why anybody would call the police to do anything, because they don't de-escalate a fucking thing, okay? Because unless the person who you're calling the police on is a white person, that's the only people that they know how to de-escalate. So let's just be clear, right? I don't know how many fucking times that we have to see this shit play out. But nonetheless, this man was picked up by police and history of schizophrenia and is now dead, 26 years old. Took 5 cops to take him down. They took him to the county jail, and now this man is dead. And there's no news to provide to his family about how the fuck that happened. Right? So once again, folks, here we are. This is Marvin Scott III. This happened in Texas, right? So on one hand, we have a white murderer who killed 8 people. And we're talking about he had a bad day. And oh, this is what happened. This is the outcome of a white man having a bad day. Other people get murdered. And then we have a black man in the midst of a mental health break who was actually having a bad day, didn't cause harm to anyone, and now he's dead. This is just another day in America, right? This is what it means to be an American. Is that if you are black, brown, Asian, walking down the street these days, you're pretty much taking your life into your own hands. Because if you stay in your house, you can be shot. We just recognized the 1-year mark of Breonna Taylor, who was asleep in her fucking bed. Her family didn't get justice. In a civil suit, they got $12 million. That's not bringing back Breonna. And it sure as hell is not going to ensure that that never fucking happens again, because nobody was held accountable. Then we have, right, this situation with this. Do you understand that since 2019, March 2020, right, the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic, until now, that there has been a rise of 150% of violence against Asian Americans in this country? Now, anybody with a fucking brain could have told you that that was happening once the white supremacist piece of shit president that we had started calling it the Kung Flu and the China virus. Everybody knew what direction this was fucking headed in. So why folks are shocked now that Asian Americans are getting the shit beat out of them or murdered on the job? White people walking around, how is this happening? How is this happening? Are you dumb? And the fact is that we don't hold the politicians accountable that continue to do that. Donald Trump was just on television recently, still referring to it as the China virus and the Kung Flu, as people are getting physically beaten and murdered because they are Asian. What the fuck? And you have all of these Republicans that have been sitting behind him saying the very same fucking thing. And then we still want to walk around and, I don't know how racism spreads. I don't know where this violence comes from, as if it comes from the sky. It comes from the mouths of people that you put in fucking charge. Why was there escalated of violence against immigrants? I don't know, because you called them fucking rapists and fucking murderers. Why is there escalated violence against Asian people? I don't know, because you blamed them for a global health pandemic instead of the fucking ignorance and cruelty of the person that you put in charge that was supposed to do their job. Speaking of which, let me take a breath and take a minute to curse out Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell, the minority leader of the Senate, is the worst type of fucking white man. He is literally the fucking worst. This son of a bitch got on the Senate floor wanting to talk about the Biden-Harris team's rollout for the vaccine, right? Saying that it wasn't coming fast enough, that they were, fixing their timeline so that they could under promise and over deliver. This is what he said on the floor. Let me tell you something, Mitch McConnell, you mealy-mouthed son of a bitch. You sat by, literally next to, Donald Trump when he was president of the United States, when he said that the coronavirus was a hoax. You said not a fucking thing. You sat by him when he then told the American people to inject bleach into their arms. You said not a fucking thing. Then, when hundreds of thousands of Americans were dying and he did not acknowledge or provide any empathy or comfort to those families of those that had lost people, you said fucking nothing. So tell me now, as work is actually getting done, as we have a president that is actually sticking by their word and getting people vaccinated ahead of fucking schedule, when Donald Trump said that at the end of 2020, 100 million Americans would have gotten the vaccination. Do you know when he walked out of office how many had gotten a shot? 2 million. And I'm sure those were his fucking donors. So Mitch McConnell, you can go fuck yourself. I do not understand what the fuck is wrong with the people of Kentucky. I mean, I have an idea, but I don't understand, honestly, how you can send that son of a bitch who has delivered nothing for your state and nothing for America back to the goddamn Senate. But you want to stand on the House floor when things are actually getting done? And you want to object to how, because what you love is you love motherfuckers that just lie, right? That underperform and underdeliver. That's what the fuck you're used to. You want to stand on the House floor talking about, oh, I think that the Biden-Harris team is mixing around with their timeline. Motherfucker, at least they have a timeline. At least they give a fuck about the American people and making sure that we put a stop to COVID-19, that we get it under control. Because had you had your way, with Donald Trump still in office, we would be reaching the millions, right? But Republicans would still be fucking ostriches with their heads in the goddamn sand, pretending that it wasn't fucking happening. As speaking of things that weren't a problem before, when Donald Trump was president, Kevin McCarthy want to find himself down at the border. House Minority Leader want to be down at the border, holding press conferences, talking about the fact that the people coming across the border are bringing COVID and all of this shit? Really? Because I thought COVID was a fucking hoax, Kevin. How could you bring over a hoax, Kevin? How does that work? You want to sit around reading green eggs and ham when the American people needed a COVID relief bill that not one fucking Republican decided that they wanted to sign on to. Really, Kevin? Shut the fuck up. The hypocrisy that we allow for these people to operate under, right? And we don't want to call bullshit. Mitch McConnell, run the fucking tapes on these motherfuckers from not years ago. We're talking about a couple of fucking months ago. Kevin McCarthy doesn't give a fuck about what is happening at the border. He doesn't care about the unaccompanied minors that are there, that are living in filth, that are living in these constructed concentration camps that he fucking greenlit. He doesn't give a fuck. So miss me with going down and wanting to hold your little press conference so that you could get some airtime on Fox News. Mitch McConnell, why don't you have a fucking seat? Because tell me what kind of legislation that you've offered to the American people over the last 4 years, other than stuffing our court system with over 300 federal judges that the American Bar Association says aren't even fucking qualified. Cramming through a fucking Supreme Court justice, which now we find out, thanks to investigators, that Brett Kavanaugh wasn't even rightfully vetted. And we know that that motherfucker just lied under oath as well. So do not sit around and allow these people to have some moral high ground when they can't even spell morality. When if their hands were to actually touch a Bible, I'm pretty sure it would burst into fucking flames. I'm sick to death. I'm sick to death with the fucking gaslight that these people put out on a regular basis, telling us not to believe our eyes, not to believe our ears, but just to consistently believe the steady flow of bullshit that comes out of their mouths. They do not care about America. They do not care about Americans. The only reason why some of you have $1,400 checks that are in their bank accounts, in their checking accounts right now, is solely because of Democrats. So do not get caught up in, well, the both sides. No. We have one political party. The other one is a fucking cult. Or, in my favorite term, a domestic terrorist organization. Because, last year when given the opportunity to sign on to legislation that was against the rise of Asian hate, that was to protect Asian Americans, do you know that 164 House Republicans didn't sign on to the bill? They voted no. 164 Republicans, when presented with information about the rise in hate crimes against Asian Americans, voted no on a piece of legislation that would recognize it and try to stop it. So who the fuck is the Republican Party really, right? As one of my audience members said, all they are is the new White Citizens Council 2.0. That's who the fuck they are. They are the KKK. They are Nazis. There is no justification for when presented with information about the rise in hate crimes, your sentiment and reaction to that is going to be, I'm voting no. When the American people need relief and we're in the midst of an economic meltdown, and you know that by giving Americans just a little bit of money, that they will then put that money back into the economy, that they'll be able to keep a roof over their head and food on their table, but all Republicans, except for a small amount, vote no on relief to the American people, but vote yes on tax breaks to millionaires and billionaires? And then you want to talk about how both parties are the same? How? How, Sway? Show me. Because I see one party that is fighting to hold this country together with everything and anything that they have, and I see another one hell-bent on destroying it. The problems that America has right now are so fucking deep. We are a powder keg. And as we continue, folks, to watch the Derek Chauvin trial, I want you to understand, it is not just Derek Chauvin, right? The officer that murdered George Floyd in broad daylight with a smug fucking look on his face. He is not the only thing that is on trial. White supremacy is on trial, right? And whether or not anyone is ever going to be held accountable for their crimes against black folks. Ever. Because, I don't have my hopes set on the fact that Derek Chauvin is going to jail. Now, understand that he tried to plead guilty to a lesser third-degree charge, which would probably have given him a sentencing around maybe a maximum of 25 years in jail. But when presented with that, acting then, Attorney General William Barr said no. So he knows that he's guilty, but his defense team is trying to gaslight the fuck out of us into believing that no, it wasn't Derek Chauvin's knee or white supremacy that killed George Floyd, right? It was a pill that he took before he went to the fucking store. How dumb do you think that we are? The recklessness with which America operates, right? With their gaslighting and their consistent lies and their consistent white supremacy, they're hammering in. When law enforcement says to a murderer, oh, he had a bad day, or, oh, I'm sorry, son, are you hungry? Did killing all those black folks work up an appetite for you? Let's bring you to Burger King on your way into jail. Let's make sure that you're okay. When you see the QAnon shaman talk about, oh, I need organic food. After storming the Capitol building and wanting to kill the Vice President of the United States, oh yes, let us make sure that the chicken that you receive is organic and free range. Are you fucking crazy? I swear to you, the more you unpack America, the more I want to pack my bags and get the fuck out of here. Because this country is sick. It really is sick. And the thing about a sickness is that if you refuse to look at it, if you refuse to diagnose it, then you can't treat it, right? White supremacy is a cancer that America refuses to treat. And you don't treat, do you treat cancer with a fucking Band-Aid? Do you treat it with a green juice? Or do you throw every fucking thing at it in order to eradicate it? So until we're willing to do that, until we're willing to put that on the line, until we're willing to go to the mats to ensure equity, right, and actual justice, then I don't know what the fuck we're doing here other than spinning our wheels every 4 years and hoping and praying that the next administration will have more incremental steps towards justice? I guess. I'm fucking exhausted. I really am. I'm over it. All I have to say, folks, is pay attention to how this trial is rolling out. Pay attention to the ways in which the media is talking about white murderers versus how they talk about innocent victims of color. And when you see that bullshit, call the fucking FCC. Call into the news stations. Because until they start to hear us in force, they're never going to change, ever. We have more power than we know. We have power in numbers. We have power with our vote and with our voice, which is why they try and rob it from us all the fucking time. Their days are numbered, but I'm telling you, it is always darkest before the dawn. But this, what we're seeing right now, what we've been seeing, this is in fact white supremacy's last stand. And I, for one, want to stand on those motherfuckers' neck until they cannot breathe. All right, folks, that is it for me on this fantastic Woke Wednesday. If you want more of Ma, then check out Woke AF Daily at patreon.com/WokeAF. $5 a month for 5 shows a week, 5-hour-long shows a week. Until next Wednesday, y'all, power to the people, and to all the people power. Get woke and stay woke as fuck. Stay well, stay sane.